Hi, it's Mike from Boost Your A-Levels. I'm here in Leicester Square at the McDonald's. I'm not going in, don't worry. I just want to use McDonald's, as I have many times, to demonstrate the application reality of lots of different economic concepts. When you can do that, you're more likely to remember them when you're doing your revision, or whether you're trying to gauge whether you understand something. And more importantly, when you're in an exam, can you remember the context by which you understood a certain concept? Now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about purchasing power parity. It's something that year 12 students probably just covered, in year 13 will know. And the best way of doing that for me is always to bring into play the Big Mac index, which the economist used back in the 1980s to demonstrate some understanding of whether one currency, when converted into another, could buy you the same goods or services in one country versus another. So, for example, if you took £5 from the UK, converted it to dollars, would it pretty much get you a Big Mac in New York as it would here in London? And if it does, that means the currency is pretty much on par with another, i.e. the exchange rate is the correct one between two countries. Whereas let's say if you took that £5 and went to New York and converted it, and you ended up being able to buy two Big Macs, what that would tell you is that the exchange rate isn't the right one for you in terms of the reality of how much your currency can buy in another country. And that brings into play the idea that in many countries around the world, costs are very different, and the exchange rate doesn't tell you enough about the standard of living or cost in that country. And therefore, bringing into play the Big Mac index, it starts to give you an idea of how one standard good that you might buy might relate to that particular concept. They've used things like the Starbucks latte as another example. They've used the iPod as another example to try and really compare GDP, currencies, living standards between two countries using statistics that we know in order to make sense of the data. And it just gives you a little bit more evaluation when you're saying, however, does that necessarily buy you the same amount in another country? So when you're talking about poor versus rich countries, high income versus low income countries, when you bring into play the purchasing power of your money as an exchange rate, you can bring in that idea of the Big Mac index and again show the examiner that you are a little bit more widely read and prepared, so that you include that in your answer. It's Mike from Boost Your A-Levels.